The Hurling Show, brought to you in association with Torpy. Torpy are leading hurling into a new future with Bamboo, a revolutionary hurley created using their unique engineered hurling performance know-how. Already being used by many inter-county players, Torpy's Bamboo is highly sustainable, offers players greater striking distance and a more consistent balance every time, without compromising on natural feel. Check them out on the Torpy website and in the link below, and enter the promo code OurGame to get yourself 10% off. Hello and welcome to the Hurling Show here on OurGame. I'm back. You know, as Michael Jordan said when he was finally coming out of retirement for the Bulls after a year of being away and messing away with the baseball, I'm back.
The big question is, where were you? And I think I have the answer. It's no coincidence that the announcement of the Miller Shield came around the time you went missing. And I understand from various strength and conditioning people around Dublin that you've been undergoing a strict regime in the past 10 days. 10 days to get back in with the Premier, or 10 days to get in there with the Premier in the first place. So you'll be landing somewhere over the weekend, getting involved in one of these North trials somewhere.
Yeah, it's North Tip against South Tip. And look, I mean, is this a come and get me plea to Colin Bonner? I'm not entirely sure.
It could well be. You'll just be. I'm sure if you got in around there, you'd hang around like a bad smell for as long as you could. Get as many bits of stories and tidbits as you could, and then you'd be chucked out.
I'm wondering, like, are there any other counties out there that do a Miller Shield type thing? I mean, I was just asking you before we went on air, does it happen in Offaly? And maybe that's something, because you've fewer clubs. Obviously, Tipperary is a bigger county. So, like and for other people who are unsure, the Miller Shield is north, south, mid, and west. I mean, obviously that's Tipperary, no such thing as east there. But you're going to have those four divisions playing against each other over the next 3 weekends as a trial for Colin Bonner to find Tipperary players. There's so many clubs in Tipperary. I think it's no harm. I think it's a good idea. Now, he won't have the Thurles lads. He won't have the Loughmore lads with the mid. I think in football, even Drummer out in football, maybe even Upper Church too. So that's going to seriously affect the mid team. But obviously it means you're going to be scouring even more players again. So, it doesn't happen in Offaly, no?
No, the only time I remember any trials happening were when John McIntyre came in as manager at the start of 2007. And I think we were still going with Burr, so we didn't take part in any of them. But I think it's funny that we've managed to mention Miller and Duff all in the first 3 minutes of a show. I believe Kilkenny are going through some trials at the moment as well. For guys that weren't, I think the only way you can legally do it is that guys can't have been part of the county panel last year, to the best of my knowledge. So it will be guys sent in from clubs who weren't on the 2021 county panel.
Yeah. Do you expect many new players to be involved with Offaly next year, based on what you've seen in the club championship, or do you think Michael Fennelly's going to be working with what he has?
I'd say he'd be working pretty much with most of the same squad that he has. Can't think of too many offhand that have really, really put their hands up. And plus, he knows his squad pretty well. But in fairness, he's been pretty fluid with calling guys in on the back of playing well. We had a couple of guys called in last year, even after a couple of league games. So he's been pretty fluid with things like that. I'm sure there will be a handful, but I wouldn't be like... there's not going to be a big raft of retirements. I don't think there's too many lads going away or anything like that. Apart from Oisin Kelly being injured, there's not too many places, I would say, that are available. But there probably will be a sprinkling of new faces in there as well, I'd say. Just on the trial games and things like that as well. I never forget playing a trial game with UL for freshers. And I think I actually threw up the ball and missed it in the trial. And it's just like, I detest trials because it's May Fainers everywhere, essentially, just trying to, do their thing, put their name in lights. My game was never about being a May Fainer, so I was goose before we started.
Yeah, I was never going to suit. Now, I remember, speaking of that, just a bozo moment when you're trying to make an impression. God, I don't know when it was, 04, 05, something like that. We played a challenge match against James Stevens in the village, and I came on towards the end of the game, and the ball was lashed up the field, and I came out in front and got it. And I was delighted. I was soloing out at speed, something that I might have had a small touch of at the time. And as the brother said afterwards, you didn't know whether he wanted to hit it or ate it or what to do, because eventually I just ended up spilling the thing, just getting caught in two minds. So not the most successful trial run. Couple of comments coming in here. Garrod O'Gracon, was Shane avoiding analysing how great Crokes were last Saturday evening as they won the county title, beating Na Fianna? By God, I wasn't, but I have to say that has to rank as one of the best comebacks. 9 points down with 10 minutes to go, and I think they went on a run of 3-8 to 2 points between then and late into extra time. It was great stuff. But I have to say, throughout the game, I was texting people saying, I think the Na Fianna backs are eventually going to crack here, because I think there's one or two. I mean, they were obviously playing a sweeper back there, and that was papering over the cracks a little bit. But I did feel that there was a weakness back there, and eventually it was going to tell, and it kind of did. And I know it's easy to say that now, 5 or 6 days on or whatever it might be. But I mean, the texts are there. We can release the texts if need be.
How worrying is it from a cooler point of view, and even from some other clubs in Dublin, the nature of how Crokes won and the fact that they've gotten over the line? They didn't coast the county final success. They had so much adversity along the way. They had no right to get a draw in many ways, and then to go and win the game comfortable. I think it's a dangerous thing over the next couple of years for other teams. I think the most likely thing to happen is for Crokes to absolutely flourish as a result of this.
Yeah, they could do. Sure, didn't Ryan O'Dwyer say on the show last Thursday that, this could be the beginning of a 5 in a row, which obviously that was looking like, a strange enough comment when they were 9 points down with 10 minutes to go, especially considering they've come up short by, 3 points so often in county finals.
Just a quick one now. This is the Ryan O'Dwyer who said on TV last week that he thought they'd win by 8. Then he said they'd win by 4 or 5. Then when it went to extra time, he said he thought Na Fianna would win.
But he's under pressure. Come on, we'll give him some excuses there. And fair play to him. He won the Dublin intermediate title with Fingalians over the weekend too, managing them. But the thing I look at with Crokes is the age profile of so many of their players is excellent. Obviously, Ronan Hayes, I can't imagine he's much more than 23, 24. Davy Crowe, good player in cornerback. He man-marked Sean Curry in the second half. Did a great job, turned him over and set up that goal for Oisin O'Rourke, which sparked the comeback, or was definitely key in the comeback. I think he looks like a really good player. Like Pádraig Linehan, who's driving runs up the centre. Like, someone had to be pulling him down. You can't let the lad solo. So, I mean, honest to God. And I was looking at some of the, obviously the Fianna players are tired, but you get to him and you stop a lad running through. Like, there's a county title on the line. So I think he's a good young player. They have lots of good young players and lots of quality hurlers too, like good stickman. Oisin O'Rourke's a good stickman. Fergal Whiteley is, for over a year we've talked about Ronan Hayes having that sort of cut of Seamus Callanan about him. So, they're seriously laying down a marker for next year, obviously, and the years to come. But how far will they go in the Leinster club this year? Starting off with Raharney, but everyone will expect Ballyhale to do it. And, they're obviously chasing that 3 in a row, which hasn't been done before. But do you see Crokes winning a Leinster title this year?
I honestly don't see them beating Ballyhale, but I don't see. But if there's one team that's going to catch them in Leinster, it is probably them, and particularly if they would meet in the Leinster final. I think we had talked about before. So they'd have a fair bit of confidence built up if they do get to that stage. There's very little, like you're talking about the age profile, their physical side. They can hurt you in loads of different ways. They've got a bit, particularly you need a big marquee man in the winter. You need someone who's going to be clocking up. What was it, 111 that he got the other night? You need someone who's going to clock up big scores like that. They have that in Ronan Hayes. I think they'll have to shore up their defence a bit. I think they were at sea around the centre of defence. And I'd say Bill O'Carroll is probably one of the happiest men in Crokes, just because, there was a lot of things maybe happened to him during the game that would not normally happen. And yet they still won a county title, and he'll have a chance to prove himself the next day rather than waiting all winter to try and get back at it again. They have a lot of the ingredients, in fairness.
Like Lorcan McMullen, Dylan Mulligan, these are all very, very good hurlers. So I'm very interested to see how they go in Leinster, because, Leinster teams outside of us, and look, I mean, this isn't the whole thing, we're great lads or anything like that. The facts are that the other teams in Dublin haven't done well in the Leinster Championship. So it'll be interesting to see if Crokes can do it. And there's no massive reason that they can't, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't see them. I don't see them having enough for Ballyhale. If I'm honest, particularly that I think that Ballyhale attack would pinch an awful lot of holes in the Kilmacud Crokes defence. But it's going to be interesting. This is like, with 20 minutes to go in the county final, they would look dead and buried. Now they have. It's not. You can never say it's bonus territory, because you never know when you're going to get back there again. but it's probably not somewhere that they thought they were going to be at various stages of that game, and they're there now. I'm sure they'll have celebrated well and could potentially still be celebrating fairly well, but I'm sure they'll give it a right good crack. Now, saying that, Raharney would only love to hear that, and Mount Leinster Rangers would only love to hear that. And Ballyhale coming down there in a week's time, and all the Ballyhale lads over in Cheltenham last week at TJ Reid's Stag. Like, this is all feeding into what other teams are kind of thinking and preparing behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, it looked like a great stag. That's one thing I'd say about the Shamrocks lads. It always looks like they're having great crack. If you ever follow any of them on Instagram, they do look like they're a great bunch that way. A few comments coming in. ML89, if either Crokes or Nafina won, you could make a case of going on to dominate, with both winning so much underage. Just needed to win one. Yeah, that's the thing. Neither of these clubs are going anywhere. Sure, everyone was forecasting that Nafina would push on at some point. So obviously they got to that final. It'll be looking to kick on again next year. Naoise Waldron on TG Cahir the other week for the Kilkenny final was looking stylish. Loves his Oscar, so he does. He does indeed. Grow to crack on. Maybe the Dublin restructure will make the championship more competitive. Also, Coola will never be far away. So for people who don't know, I was saying previously that it's going to be 3 tiers of 10 in senior next year. So it's 16 at the moment. There are too many games being won by 30 and 40 points. So I think it helps to bring it down to 10. Not everyone's going to agree. Shane Power saying the mop on top is getting a bit tasty at the front. Must have been quite a rough 2 weeks since Coola and Burris were dumped from the championship. Look, it wasn't ideal, but what can you do? And that is sick, I should say. TJ Reid's wedding is the day before the Leinster quarter-final against Mount Leinster Rangers. Think it's possible for MLR to win? That is highly unfortunate timing for TJ, isn't it? Yeah,
Adrian Mullen said yesterday it was the Friday, and that was 2 days beforehand. But he could be right. Either way, certain eyes will definitely be taken off the prize. But I don't know. I think the Ballyhale lads, like, when have they, name me a time that they've really been caught in the last, like, even the last decade? They just traditionally don't seem to take their eyes off it. And again, it's not like they're just relying on TJ or just relying on a couple of lads there. They can hurt you in so many different ways. But again, it feeds into the idea of, like, I know if you're in the Mount Leinster Rangers camp, you're going to be saying, like, it's nearly disrespectful to be having a wedding at this time of the year. Did they not think that did they not look at the fixtures, this kind of a thing? But listen, yeah, you kind of have to create that siege mentality sometimes. Plus, it's down in Carlow as well, which is, Carlow will be boggy enough at the best of times, let alone at the end of November.
I'd love to hear that.
Well, it is. There's no point saying any different. It is.
When did Ballyhale last? I wouldn't even say flop, but when they've gotten out of Kilkenny, obviously you have to be going pretty well to get out of Kilkenny. Sorry, to get out of any club championship, you have to be going pretty well. So when have they not kicked on or been surprisingly beaten? Like the most recent one I can think of when they were beaten in the Provincial series was Oulart in 2012. And remember, the likes of Henry Shefflin, he wasn't available at the time because was it his shoulder or his cruciate he'd done at the time? I can't remember, but I don't think he was available. Like, when have they last not fairly performed after coming out of Kilkenny?
Well, we beat them in 2007 in a semi-final, and we just beat them, and they were missing Cha and Henry. You're saying when the Oulart bet them, they were missing Henry as well.
I think they were.
Yeah, and you're looking at that All-Ireland Club final against, or that All-Ireland Club semi-final against Portumna, where Portumna kind of blew them away a bit. It was the kind of billing of the Prince against the King, Joe against Henry. But like, they'd still won the Provincial at that stage, and they got their revenge, I think, was it the year after or 2 years later in the All-Ireland Club final. So they don't really do underperforming, to be fair to them. If there seems to be one of these teams, if they don't win their county title, they're usually beaten in a semi-final. If they win their county title, they're nearly going all the way most of the times. I think statistics would nearly tell you that.
Yeah, I actually just looked it up there. Henry Shefflin went off with an ankle injury that day against Oulart in 2012. This is Verney's chance to wax lyrical about Burr. You've been waiting in the long grass to give it the big one about them, haven't you?
Well, listen, I think I'll probably get a chance in a couple of minutes again when we talk about great club managers, with Kevin O'Brien stepping aside to bring up Burr again. Any chance you get, like, if you hop the ball, I'm going to catch it, like.
YouTube user. What an interesting name there, creative name. What's the reason for so many quality county finals this year? You'd have to say that's across the board in both codes. I mean, even it feels like a good while ago now, but even the Leitrim final, geez, that was absolutely brilliant. Yeah. There's so much drama. Like, even think of the Glen winning up in Derry. The Tyrone final was good. Even in Cork there was penalty shootout in the semi-final. It does feel like it's all kicking off at the moment, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah.
Do you think it's like, people who are into club or whatever, like us and people maybe who watch the show, or do you think people across the country are like, this is brilliant?
No, I think like nearly every weekend, if TG Catter have had, 2 games on a Sunday, there's nearly always been one absolute belter. Last Sunday, it was Mountbellion, Lough and Corofin, which was just crazy. Like, then you had the Tip final. The week before, you had the Kilkenny final. A couple of weeks before that, as you say, you had the Leitrim final. We have been, I don't know if there's any particular reason for it. I hope it's like when, a load of boys arrive as babies in a parish, and then obviously a load of girls are going to come along. Hopefully all the good stuff is not coming out. We're going to get a lot of bad stuff soon. But you know what I mean? I just think we have been blessed, in fairness. Like last weekend, we had Crokes and Nafina, an absolute epic that you just couldn't have foreseen what was happening. Then you had the 2 games on Sunday as well. Like, that's as perfect as a GA weekend as you can get.
As Shane Power says, as bad as it is to say, the truth is that no team in Leinster can beat the Shamrocks. Only hope you'd have is that O'Loughlin's only lost by 4 and Crokes are a better team than O'Loughlin's. And to be honest, it remains to be seen if that is the case. Obviously, they have to go out and prove that.
Yeah, it's worrying that O'Loughlin's played so well and had Ballyhale at 6s and 7s, and then they were just able to turn it around and kind of won the game pulling up. Like, O'Loughlin's got a goal at the end to kind of put a good face on it, really. But they were well beaten in the wind-up.
Yeah, so also then, obviously I didn't talk about the Tipperary final because I wasn't on the show on Monday. But I came away from that thinking Loughmore left that behind them in a big, big way. And I came away thinking, geez, if you took away Paddy Maher at full-back, Ronan Maher at centre-back, and the full forward line out of Thurles, where else are they going at the moment? And I do feel if Loughmore had to stop hitting ridiculous shots from 100 yards, like John Maher got on a load of ball at centre-back. I think he's a really good player, but stop hitting the ball straight to Ronan Maher. And he did stop doing it as the game went on. But I just thought, like, Loughmore really left that behind them, and they were like, there's a good chance that they can expose this SARS team if they cop on from the get-go the next time.
Well, you'd be hoping that they've learned their lesson. And even with the first goal, I don't know how many times I've said it, I hate to see a keeper coming out like that. And
I blame the keeper for not coming out more.
Yeah, no, well, there's 2 things on this. If the keeper is going to come out, he goes full hog. The fullback forgets about the ball in that situation, and you just stop the forward having any impact on play. The fullback didn't forget about the ball. He was he was just nearly been too nice almost, and he was allowed a hurl to come in around the keeper that never should have happened. I don't expect him, to see a rookie mistake like that the next day. As you say, they made a hero out of Ronan Maher at different stages in that game. So I can't understand that. I cannot get my head around. If you're thinking about it pre-match, you're thinking we don't want Ronan Maher hitting a load of ball. We're keeping the ball away from him almost, and then you see what happened, particularly in the early stages of the game. So you'd imagine that would be absolutely bet into them the next day, because you just can't do that. You can't make any centre back. The centre back is nearly always going to be the best player on the field generally. You cannot make him or her look like a hero. Yeah,
and I wonder will Ronan Maher be? Apparently he's carrying a bit of a dead leg in that drawn game. So you'd imagine in the space of 2 weeks he'll be feeling a bit better. Like I feel sorry for Joey Hennessy, the full back, for that first goal. I think he had enough done, and I think the goalkeeper is still standing inside or on the edge of the 6-yard box when he finally puts his hand towards the ball. Go up and get the ball at its height. He's a converted goalkeeper from an outfield player. I think he's a good player, and I think he did pretty well otherwise. And obviously Joey Hennessy is obviously going to be frustrated that he fell over for the second one. But just like Brian Maher did brilliantly to play with a broken thumb, but shooting from 100 yards and hitting 2 wides in the first half when you could feed it into your brothers who were going to go to town if they get on the ball. Like, Noel needs to get on an awful lot more than he did the last day. Kieran Connolly, I think, is a player that should definitely be looked at closely by Tipperary. Again, calm down on the 100-yard shots, but I think he's got everything required to go in there and make an impact. And Paddy Creedon as well, quiet game, but that's his first senior county final. He can probably kick on again the next day. But anyway, we've touched on that, so we should probably move on from that and look at the Cork hurling final this weekend. Will we pitch it as Patrick Horgan against Conor Lehane?
It's a very simplistic thing to do, but it's probably not inaccurate either, in fairness. I'd say it's accurate. Like, whichever one of the two of them steps up most for their club, they're going to leave their team on the front foot with a great chance of winning. You'd have to say that.
Yeah. So no title since 2016, so 5 years for Glen Rovers, and it's I think it's 2013 since Middleton last won one, and it's an interesting sort of managerial merry-go-round for the Glen. Obviously, Richie Keller has been there for a while, and Ian Lynham, he was coach I think for 5 county finals there in the last 7 seasons, but he was manager back in 2010. They lost the first round, I think, heavily enough that year. Maybe in the Piercing or someone beat them by 16 points, and they got to the county final and lost it that year. He's back, and obviously they had a slow start to the year. I think they missed out on having a few challenge matches and stuff like that because of COVID, stuff like that. But after losing their first game to Douglas, they beat Bishopstown, Newtown, Chandram. They're basically playing knockout hurling since round 1. And then to beat Immaquilly, despite Patrick Horgan getting sent off, and then obviously Horgan's red card was overturned for the semi-final against Sarsfields. Like, they have kicked on and done pretty well to get here, considering the inauspicious start they had.
No, they have, and I was just reading this morning, Owen Cormac was writing for the Examiner about an emergency meeting that they had after that 11-point defeat to Douglas. And I think this can happen, and it can be actually, after a setback like that, an emergency meeting, and that it's not necessarily a bad thing. If the right things are put out on the table and there's a bit of tension, which there should be after a hammering, a few people's noses are put out a joint, but then it's kind of smoothed over and everybody agrees with what they need to do to sort it out. So just some of the quotes from Ian Lynham. He just said, at the meeting, we decided to go back to basics, that we'd knuckle down and work hard. We knew it was going to come down to hard work, looking after ourselves and putting in the nasty hours. He just said preparations for that Douglas game weren't right. We had COVID cases. I was looking back in my diary there last week. We only trained 4 times in August and we had to cancel a couple of challenge matches. That wasn't the right preparation going into a championship match. So I think it is nice to have an excuse of sorts at times as well. It's particularly good for your head, I think, when, if everything is perfect in your preparation, you go out and get beaten 11 points and you have everybody available to them. Like, that's worrying. There's no point in saying any different. That is worrying. If you can point to things, realistic things, sometimes people hang on like small things. I didn't get a good night's sleep the night before or whatever, but they've got plenty of, obvious things that were not right the week of that match. And in fairness to be able to turn it around, you mentioned Horgan's red card. I think to win that game without him was huge. And I think it would have had everybody else puffing their chests out that we don't rely on him as much as people say, and we're able to win games without him.
Yeah, well, I think they got the next 2 points after his red card, and it allowed them to go in ahead at half time. So that's a very good sign when a team responds on the field just like that. Maybe Immaquilly just didn't deal with it the right way themselves and got themselves mixed up. But is it going to be a case of Horgan and Lanigan, or is it going to be players like Cormac Boasang, Luke O'Farrell, Dean Brosnan, who obviously has that Cork experience for the Glen, or maybe even Simon Kennefick, who has scored a couple of unbelievable ones this year for the Glen?
Yeah, there's a nice little undercard there, in fairness. You're going to have the big billing of Horgan against Lanigan. But I have people saying to me the whole time like that it's just beastings from now on. Like, Boasang doesn't exist. It's just beastings. That's what they're going with. As you say, Boasang has been brilliant. Luke O'Farrell has been brilliant as well. Lanigan looks transformed, having gone back to Middleton for the full year and not maybe had his confidence taken away from him with Cork. The Glens kind of supporting cast is tasty enough too. Robert Downey's at centre back, Steve McDonald at full back, Kennefick in the forward line as well, and obviously Eb Horgan then too. So I think it's important that there are other guys like Kennefick takes a bit of minding in the Glen attack, so that potentially leaves an extra yard or two for Horgan to operate in. Lanigan is obviously going to have a big focus on him, but like, they can't just focus on him to the point where they're going to leave Boasang free or O'Farrell free and they're going to do damage. So it's great to have the marquee man, but to have those other guys that are chipping in around him is hugely important too.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the scoreline they put up against champions Blackrock. 422 is serious shooting, yeah. And even just going through their team and players that, maybe not everyone's heard of all of these players, but like, there's serious quality here. Like Sean O'Leary Hayes, we've seen him with Cork. He's a very good player. Tommy O'Connell looks really good. Paul Hockney, he was involved with Cork a couple of years ago. I remember him being in there. Obviously, Conor Lanigan. And then like Luke O'Farrell, like, he was an excellent player for Cork there for a number of years. He's probably 31, 32 at this stage. really, really good player. So, like, they have a lot of quality there. And there's a question coming in from Shane Power. Do you think Middleton are coming in under the radar? With the Glen having been in Munster Championships most years and the talk around how much Hoggy will score, etc. I don't know. I'd say within Cork, like, everyone is looking at the quality of Middleton. And, like, obviously Ben O'Connor's there as manager. He's obviously made an impact. Look at Conor Lehane and the damage he can do. Scored 110 the last day. Scored 10 the last day, 4 of those from play. I don't think anyone would underestimate the scoring potential of this Middleton forward line with just even Lehane, Luke O'Farrell and Cormac Bosak.
Yeah, it mightn't be as sexy of a storyline as the Glen with Horgan and with all the tradition that they have. But, like, Middleton, I think we're flying under the radar a small bit. The last county title they won as well. It's interesting to hear Conor Lehane talking about Ben O'Connor's impact. You've talked to him, Shane, several times. I've talked to him. He's very straight and to the point. If you're not, and that's like us talking to him as journalists, asking him his opinion on something. So I'd imagine if, you know, his players aren't doing something, he'd be very straight and to the point with them as well. And passion was the one word that Conor Lehane said. He's a Newtown Chandram man originally, a club man originally, but Conor Lehane just talks about his passion. He just says he's so heavily in it. He's really, really bought in, which you'd expect anyway, but he's taken it to another level. When you see that from someone who isn't actually from the club, it stands out even more. The passion he has brought and how much it means to him. You can see it by the way he talks and by his actions in training. It means as much to him as it would to any of us. And I just think, they do look like they're in really good condition, really, really fit side, well conditioned. They play a clever brand that suits them. And they definitely won't be wanting for motivation from him, I can tell you that.
Yeah, Jimmy Doyle says Sars certainly won't get any credit on this show. Am I too hard on Sars? Or are you hard on him as well?
No, I'm not that hard on him. You totally wrote them off going into the semi-final. There's no point in saying any different. You basically said that they had no...
I said to be a puck of a ball.
Yeah, no, you also said that they had no ball winners and that they wouldn't be able to win it when it got dirty. That's and in fairness, the opposite happened.
Yeah, but I did say a puck of a ball in it. So let's not say that I said that they were going to get hammered out the gate. But, like, I do believe that when Loughmore played smart hurling, that they just have a few more weapons to go to. And Sars are unbelievably reliant on Pa Burke and Dennis Maher. And, I mean, obviously that goal, the first one that happened as far as I'm concerned, is a bit of a freak too. But, yeah, not everyone is going to agree on that one. Let's see other comments in here.
Shane, there's no point in saying any different. Before the semi-final, they would have been saying that they were written off. That's just the way it is.
Let him off, sure. Let him off. Let any team that has a problem with what we say, let him off, sure. Let him off. Do you know what? We want to mention this, and just for comment's sake, Kevin O'Brien is leaving Corofin after leading them to 3 in a row of All-Ireland club titles, which is an unbelievable achievement. And obviously it hasn't been done before, so he's out on his own in terms of doing that. Just wondering what other club managers are up there. We'll come back to this topic in a little while, but tell us what other club managers are up there in that sort of rarefied air that Kevin O'Brien is up in. And then also, what managers are sort of available in the country right now, both codes. You know, who's available and in demand, club or county? Just very curious to know, because it can be very hard to have a clue, and just we can almost speculate who'll be chasing who on the back of that.
Yeah, actually, you don't know. Like you say, he steps aside there. You don't know. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be somewhere else or anything like that. But you don't know. Maybe Pádraig Joyce has been on to him and he's going to be involved in the Galway backroom team. You just don't know. I have to say one thing about Kevin O'Brien and Corofin. Has any? I can't remember a club team in either hurling or football providing us with as many like glorious moments of where TG Carr put up this 40-second clip of this absolute poetry emotion of a goal, or like all these scores that over the last couple of years that they've provided us has been absolutely outstanding. In fairness, Kevin O'Brien and Corofin have done nothing to only raise the standards within Galway. And now Ballyhale, who are obviously going to fly under the radar a bit because they have never, went on this big provincial run. You have to say, like, based on what they did last Sunday, that they have a fair shout, of going a long way.
Yeah. Comment in from ML89. Is it possible for Conor Lehane to get a recall for Cork, or has that ship left? It's not something you'd ever really see. It's an open panel answer managers give basically means no. rightly or wrongly, I can't see him being called up again as long as Kieran Kingston is involved.
I'd say you're right. Can't think of his age offhand, but he played in the 2013 final, which will be 9 years ago next year. And Kieran Kingston,
29.
29, yeah. He could still have 3 to 4 years at inter-county level, given how the shape he's in and what he can add to it. But I don't see him going back in. I wonder, is he happier not to be in there at the moment as well? Sometimes it comes back to how much do you actually enjoy your hurling, and you'd wonder how over the last couple of years how much was he enjoying it. Is he enjoying it now? I'd say his performances would suggest that he definitely is. Just on the question that you asked there about who's available, I think a couple of commenters had in that Davy Fitz is available, which he obviously is, and it's as availabilities go, it's one of the biggest in the game in either code, you'd have to say.
Saint, I asked Verney this one of the previous shows while you were off. Do you think Simon Kennefick should get a chance with the Cork seniors? He's been absolutely superb the last 2 or 3 years for the Glen. I think if he hasn't been called in for a trial at some stage, he should, because some of the quality of that winning point he got against Immakilly, I think, in the quarterfinal, that alone speaks to the level of talent that he has. Now, whether he gets ahead in the pecking order of the starting forwards that they have at the moment, not to mention Alan Connolly's there to come in, Shane Barrett, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure if he'd be able to break into that team. But to me, he's at the very least worth a try.
My only worry for him will be is that they have a lot of players of his stature and size profile already. And I think if I'm Kieran Kingston, I'm probably thinking I need to find other type of players. I need to find a 6'3" or 6'4" target man or someone that can win puckouts. So
would you take him or Conor Lehane?
That's a good one. Kennefick's obviously early 20s. Lehane has done it at county level. Maybe not in the last couple of years, but he has. I'd probably take Lehane if I'm honest with you. I still think he has something to offer if managed correctly. But saying that, Kennefick could go and play very well for Cork over the next good while. But this is the thing. It's like I said to you before. It's like a 2-year-old horse. They haven't reached their threshold yet. You don't know what their capabilities are. Kennefick could excel at county level. Whereas I may be going with the 3-year-old that has the form in the book, who I know can perform at county level, if you know what I mean. And he has the toe.
Flash, how much does his Galway stint affect Shane O'Neill's stock as a manager? I've been on such a high with Napiershik. I would imagine that he'd be in demand at club level. Whether he'd go outside of his native club, Napiershik, I don't know. Kieran Birmingham has been over the team the last couple of years, so yeah, I don't know. I'd say his stock is still going to be relatively high. Plenty of clubs would want him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. He's already proven it at club level anyway, and I'd be surprised if he might want a break after Galway, but I'd be surprised if high-profile clubs weren't looking for him and some other counties weren't looking for him in time as well. You're obviously going to learn an awful lot from that too. The first year was far from bad, and they were close enough to within the vicinity of Limerick anyway. So I think you're very foolish to have an overreaction just to the last 2 championship games he played with Galway, and maybe you need to look at him, look at his kind of managerial CV in a kind of a broader terms, and it's not bad when you look at it in a broader kind of way.
That is sick of saying the Mount Leinster Rangers match has been postponed to the week after. Lucky for TJ. I haven't seen that story just yet. So
no, first I heard of that now, to be honest with you. First I heard of that. Might just check it out there if you want to go through a few more comments.
I think ML89 says Johnny Kelly with Portumna, Padjo Whelan with Burr, Pat Nally with Athenry, Shefflin, Matty Kenny, all of ridiculous records at clubs, all 2 to 3 time All-Ireland club winning managers. Yeah, so that is the sort of pedigree we're looking at. And let us know in the other code as well in football. We're going to be doing a bit of football towards the end of this show. But you also wanted to do a bit of a shout out for Camross, because the Camogie team is bidding for a junior and intermediate double. Yeah,
they are indeed this weekend. Yeah, so we've plenty of listeners and viewers from Laois, and they're going for junior and intermediate double this weekend. Going for one county final is a big deal. Going for 2, especially in the one day and the one weekend, is even bigger. So I'd like to wish them the best of luck as well. Can't find anything on that refixture, I have to say, but maybe that's something that's going on in the background that we don't know about yet. And if it is, Thank you to our viewer. We'll follow it up after the show, and could be valuable to us. We can get a story out of it.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the panels have been released for that Miller Shield thing that we talked about earlier in Tipperary with the trials, the North, South, Mid and West all playing this weekend. There's actually a mixture of lads who are already in with the county panel there already. I'm seeing like Robert Byrne of Portrue. I'm seeing Barry Heffernan, Alan Tynan, obviously the former rugby player. Keane Darcy's in there. There's a nice little spread there. I'm only just looking at as we're talking here, but there's a nice mixture of players who are in with their county already and those that weren't. Like Jerry Kelly, who we've talked about before, he's named as number 11 for North Tipperary as well. So interesting to see that it's not like he wants to see a mix of established players with lads that potentially are coming.
Well, from the point of view of a young fella maybe trying to make a mark, I think I said this to you before, how much easier is it to make a mark when you have, a couple of experienced players around you? I would say an awful lot easier. Whereas if you've got, if you're an inexperienced player surrounded by inexperience, it's going to be very, very hard to make a mark. But I think what they've done already is I think it's created an interest in tip hurling at this time of the year. I think it's made it look like basically an open window that anybody can come in at different times, and very few lads are going to have excuses if they're not on the tip panel now as well. I think it's a good idea by Colin Bonner as well to maybe, not saying that the tip faithful have been lost in recent years or anything like that, but people would love to be getting out watching these games over the next while, and I think it will create a lot of interest and a lot of talk and a lot of buzz. So I think it's a smart move in fairness, and he's obviously going to get at least a handful of new players out of it.
Yeah, I'm even looking here at the mid-team. Carl Barrett is named at centre-back there. Andrew Ormond is centre-forward. There's a good mixture of different clubs that maybe haven't been represented too much. There's a nice bit of Gartnahoe Glengool, for example, which would have been Shane Long's club.
Great club name, isn't it? Like,
yeah. Is there a better club name? It's a club name that rolls more off the tongue than Gartnahoe Glengool.
So good. And you just know, like, I always kind of think of Killinascully when I think of Gartnahoe Glengool. It's just down kind of, not to say that it's backward or anything like that, but there are some places in Tipperary that are quite backward. But I love that name. That's nearly as good as it gets for me. Yeah,
there's a Ross Bonner who's named in the West Tipperary, and I'm not actually sure what his relation is to Colm. I presume he's a nephew or something like that, because Colm lives down in Dunhill in Waterford, and I think his son might play for... I might have it wrong there, so I'm sure someone will...
the way there's all divisional teams now, but is there a team of, like, exiles with S. Stapleton playing number 14?
Yeah, not at the moment. It's not at the moment. Data6 says it's up on Mount Leinster Rangers Facebook page, only posted around 2 hours ago. So interesting to see if that is the case. I'll just read out a few more comments if you want to check that.
Yeah.
Sean O'Sullivan mentioning cameras here. They traded their hurleys for hatchets, I thought. Going in 2-footed there, Sean. ML89, Mayo did something similar when Horna came back. The county players had to do the trials as well. Oh, sorry, Horn, obviously. Shane, who do you think will excel? Says James, 6,500. God, it's anyone's guess, really. But one of the things I'd say is this is trials in winter hurling, when you might see what's in the belly of a player, which I think is a good thing. But then again, it mightn't necessarily translate to when the intercounty action is going to be, which is next summer. So that's kind of the thing with it. But at least the weather has been unseasonably good, in the sense that the pitches are obviously going to hold up pretty well. They're not going to be on sample now or anything. But look, what's the downside?
I don't really see a downside. They are pretty far removed. Like, I think the one thing you'd have to look at in a player is, okay, are they excel at the moment? Are they going to have the pace for summer hurling? That's probably the one thing you're going to have to ask. Just on that club fixture, yeah. So that quarter-final has been refixed. It's been pushed back a week. It was originally slated for Sunday, November 28th, and it has now been pushed back to Saturday, December 4th. So you'd have to say that's a result for Ballyhale.
December 4th, is it?
December 4th, yeah.
December 4th. No, I think that's great. I think that's only right and proper. Because I remember during the lockdown there, maybe a year and a half ago, or maybe it was last January or something like that, with the restrictions, I think TJ was meant to get married an awful lot earlier than this. So, no harm. If the clubs can make it happen, they should do that. So here's a question now. You've kind of done a piece about it in the paper, but the All-Star hurling comparison and why you think that stats are so important.
Yeah, well, it's just like, with All-Star selection, like, you have an opinion and I have an opinion, And that's fine. But opinion is one thing. I think you need to be able to back up your opinion with facts somewhat. And particularly if, just say me and you are just looking at me and you here, split screen here, just say we're both going for an all-star and, 60% of the people, it'll never happen. 60% of the people think you're going to get it, and 40% of the people think I'm going to get it. Like, it's like, Sir Saint has to get it. Okay, why does he have to get it? And like, what's your reasoning behind this? And if I tell you that Verney has done X, Y, and Z, and that my percentages or my stats are much better than yours, but maybe this is obviously not going to happen either. But maybe you've done something a lot flashier than I have done.
Sounds right.
Yeah, I just think it's a really interesting one. So I went down through kind of a deep dive comparing the 3 all-star hurling goalkeeper nominees, and just some interesting things that I think that came out of it. So for the purpose of this, extra time wasn't included because Kilkenny played extra time twice, Cork played it once, and Limerick never played it. So it was an analysis of Patrick Collins' 5 games, Nicky Quaid's 4 games, and Owen Murphy's 3 games. So just a quick one on puckouts. So 75% of the 132 puckouts that Quaid took were retained, and 48% of them were retained cleanly. So it wasn't straight away, a catch from a puckout. That 75%, but it was a flick down to another man, and then 48% of the time they ended up with ball cleanly in possession from one of their own puckouts. Murphy, they only got 30% cleanly in Kilkenny hands, and Patrick Collins, they got 36% cleanly in his hands. So you'd have to point, you'd have to definitely give the thumbs up to Nicky Quaid in that regard, because they were able to hold on to the ball an awful lot quicker. Limerick created.
Can I start before you jump onto that? So you're saying, let's say Limerick retained 75% of puckouts, and 48% of that 75% were retained cleanly.
Ended up cleanly in the Limerick players' hands. Yeah, it wasn't a couple of touches to get it out to somebody. It was nearly as good as clean, like.
And I wonder, this might be an unfair question, but like, do Limerick go shorter more than the other teams there? So a lot of those clean ones are like 20-yard pucks.
The clean would be the next ball. So if it goes short, the clean would be the next ball. It's not just the puck out to the cornerback and that's going cleanly. It's actually the next ball from there when it goes short.
Yeah, so but I'm saying, like, when you go short, because teams generally drop someone back against Limerick, you're hitting it to. It's obviously that bit easier to retain possession when you're just going short. So I'm just wondering, do Limerick go short an awful lot more than Kilkenny do, for example?
Not percentage wise, no. Not percentage wise, no. They actually they'd all match up relatively closely in that respect. It's the second ball that's different. It's Kilkenny would tend to go a lot longer maybe with the second ball. Limerick would tend to give a 30 or 40 yard stick pass out to the middle of the field maybe. Just on scoring chances that came from Quaid's puckouts. So 39% of the time Limerick got a scoring chance from a Quaid puckout, and they scored 426 directly off puckouts. Murphy, it was 30%, and they scored 216. So that's 426 to 216. Quite a big gap there. Collins' puckouts, only 25% of them ended up in scoring chances, but they scored 430. So if you're looking at, from Cork's point of view next year, if we can win more clean possession, we're going to create even more chances. And if Collins' stats go up and there's another couple of goals and 10 points thrown on that, all of a sudden Cork are winning more games than you'd expect them to be. This is interesting as well. So what did the opposition score directly off our puckout? Nicky Quaid's puckouts, they conceded 13 points. There was 23 points scored off Owen Murphy's puckouts, and there was 120 scored off Patrick Collins' puckouts. So that would suggest a couple of things. How good the puckouts are going out, and how good or not the players are contesting the puckouts, and how well they're dealing with that. And then lastly, pass completion and normal play. So how good when the ball came in short to you, or you caught a ball under the crossbar, how good were you at keeping that ball? So Collins kept it 73% of the time, Quaid kept it 72% of the time, and Murphy's was at 54. Now that's a lot to do with their style of play as well. When
he was letting the ball fly, was he?
Yeah, but that should be like, it should be clear to Kilkenny people and to Kilkenny management that this is not working then to that same point. If Murphy is launching the ball and they're only winning it 54% of the time, so it's 50-50 essentially, whereas the other teams are gone up at nearly 75%. So you'd imagine that's something that Kilkenny will look at changing. Just an interesting one, Shane. Just ask you a question here. How many times did Limerick lose possession cleanly from a Nicky Quaid puck out in this year's championship?
So how many times did the opposition either snap it or turn it over instantly?
Yeah.
Oh, they're so careful with the ball.
Really a clean snap now here, where possession was the contested a puck out, and Limerick did not win clean possession. The other team won clean possession.
Oh, I'd say if it happened 10 times, and did they play five games, was it, or 4 games?
4 games, yeah.
God, I'd say if it happened 8 times, that would be a lot, considering how dominant they are.
Twice. Once in the All-Ireland semi-final, once in the All-Ireland final. Now, in fairness, it only happened 4 times with Kilkenny in normal time. They played 3 games. You'd probably say the standard of opposition maybe wasn't as good as well. And it happened, I think it was double digits. It was 10 or 11 for Cork. So for Cork, I think a lot of it definitely would point in direction of Quaid as regards, how good he is in that facet of the game. But for Cork as well, I think there's a lot of eye-opening points to, what they need to rectify to be real contenders next year.
Yeah, we have Phil Lanigan on the line here as well. Phil, how's things with you? You well?
Well, Shane, how are you? How's Michael?
How's it going, Phil?
Phil, we're talking about the goalkeepers. Michael's just run through the stats there of Nicky Quaid, Owen Murphy and Patrick Collins. And I suppose it feels like this year it's going to be, how do you make a case for non-Limerick people to win All-Stars? As in, this will be the optics when the All-Stars are being picked, the selection committee when they're trying to do it. Because I think I don't know if you're going to pick 11 or 12 Limerick lads. Even if they deserve it or not, I think there's a good chance that won't happen. And it's almost like Owen Murphy is going to be given the All-Star, rightly or wrongly, simply just to mix things up a little bit. Now, he's absolutely a brilliant player, no question about that. But what are your thoughts on this? And I'm not sure how much you caught of the stats that Michael ran through there, but they're very, very impressive towards Nicky Quaid. But what way are you sort of leading in this debate?
Well, interestingly, actually just off a call with Owen Murphy, and we were putting those stats in an indirect way to him. So, again, Owen Murphy, the argument with Kilkenny, the bit of fallout since the defeat is that they haven't been able to mix it up tactically enough. They haven't modernised enough with their puck outs. And nobody is actually blaming Owen Murphy, because I think he'll put the ball wherever you want him. But that Brian Cody has taken a bit of criticism maybe for not mirroring more the Limerick model and the Cork model. So, we were asking Owen, how much is it dependent, the stats that Mike have used, how much is it dependent is having TJ Reid under a dropping ball or Walter Walsh versus, Cian Lynch or Graham Mulcahy? Limerick stats are brilliant, but if you were Nicky Quaid, you'd love to look down the field and see Gerard Hegarty on one wing. Yeah, Tom Morrissey's brilliant in the air. Cian Lynch is actually a fantastic fielder of the ball as well. So the stats, like Michael said, clearly the stats are a huge part of analysis now, and rightly so. But the way a team, a manager's instructions and how a team are set up, that clearly is weighing against Owen Murphy in a way, because if he's been told to go long a lot of the time, and that is your setup, and a lot of scores, came from turnovers in that extra time in the Kilkenny Cork match. How is that his fault in a way? Or if Nicky Quaid's stats are better because Gerard Hegarty is just brilliant in the air and Tom Morrissey in the air, so clearly everyone's drilling down now into the style of play, how you set up, and ball retention. And I think it's standing unfortunately against Owen Murphy a bit, that the way Kilkenny are still kind of going long, maybe more than other teams. But his shot stopping's been out of this world again.
Yeah, Michael, you were saying, did you have the stats for how many times? So Nicky Quaid only lost possession twice cleanly from the 4 games. Did you have those stats on Kilkenny and Cork?
Kilkenny? Yeah, Murphy's was 4. Sorry, yeah, Murphy.
So he only lost 4 clean possessions from his own puck.
Now that's in normal time, I must say, because to do an equal comparison, and Cork was, I think it was 10 or 11. I don't have it offhand, but it was only 4 times as well. I do agree with Phil. I have to say, I think, and this comes back to the frustration with the way Kilkenny are playing. And I do think Murphy could play it any way you like, but I don't know if he's been forced, but they're playing it this way. And I think he could be even better again if they allowed him maybe to have a bit more independence with the puckouts and to develop something. It also shows like Limerick have developed this. To say that they lost 2 clean possessions from puckouts, it just shows you how well drilled they are. And maybe you'd have to say that you'd have to question whether Kilkenny are as well drilled in that way as well, and maybe tactically at the moment they're not.
And Michael, look at Owen again in the club championship. Sure, he's been playing out of his skin. Was it centre back? There was again one of the matches you could see him. He was running from centre back, ball off stick. He was sticking points on the run. So that idea of maybe the setup like Cork and Patrick Collins, didn't he at time playing as a kind of last man back almost, as another outfield player. Like again, O'Murphy would, out of any keeper you'd say, would absolutely be comfortable that, like even the further he plays up as a kind of extra man. So the potential for there definitely is for Kilkenny to mix things up a bit further. He even admitted himself, of course, that there'd be a level of introspection and about what they're going to do. And that is the dominant, I would have thought, with Henry Shefflin going to Galway as well, that's kind of the dominant part of the conversation. How much are Kilkenny going to kind of mix things up a little bit, and how much shorter can they go and be comfortable with it?
Michael, did you come away from it thinking it has to be Nicky Quaid from the Ulster for the Ulster?
Yeah, kind of did, Shane, to be honest with you. Yeah, kind of did, yeah. When you look at, just on the goals that were conceded, obviously, Murphy conceded, in normal time again, he conceded 1 goal and made 3 telling saves, shall we say. Quaid conceded 5 goals and made 9 telling saves. And Collins conceded 7 and made 7 kind of telling saves. So while he conceded more goals, I would say he was absolutely devastating with ball in hand. Now that does play into what Phil says as well, what he's looking up the field. But yeah, I just think goalkeeping now, shot stopping is still the bread and butter. But if he has the ball in his hand, Quaid has the ball in his hand 40 times in a game, and they might lose possession cleanly once or less than once in a game. Like that's just a killer for other teams.
But how much, Michael, again, how much of that is if you brilliant ball winners? So like Cork's problem, Cork's whole game plan has been mixed up. It's a running game plan, but based traditionally around not having those kind of Garrod, Hegarty, TJ Reid ball winners in the half forward line. So they've come up with a game plan that suits themselves. So how do you blame one keeper, for not having brilliant ball winners in the team? It's clearly, it's very nuanced debate. It goes different ways. The stats clearly kind of work in Nicky Quaid's favour, and then you kind of make the case of how much of that can you decide how much of that is because Garrod Hegarty is brilliant and Tom Morrissey's a brilliant option. They've so many super ball winning options. And then Cork's whole game plan is based around the fact that they operate in a different way.
I'd nearly say Murphy could be the best shot stopper we've ever seen. And there's obviously been an awful lot of them over the years. Like Brendan Cummins is obviously going to come to mind when I'm thinking of them. But some of the saves he's made, even going back to 2014, I think he was the difference in that 2014 pair of All-Irelands.
And just on that as well, Shane, Kilkenny probably not being as strong as they were leaves Murphy in these positions probably where he has to make these saves, and he invariably does. And I would agree with you. To me, he's probably the best goalkeeper I've seen. I think. And like that's there's probably company there with maybe Cummins and Damien Fitzhenry would be up there as well. And I'd love to see Murphy be given the control or the independence to go after something a bit more like what Limerick are doing with Quaid. But I do think it's going to be seriously interesting. Couldn't find any betting on it. Couldn't find any betting on who the All-Star goalkeeper was going to be. But it'll be interesting to see in the weeks coming up to the All-Stars. Listen, the All-Stars are great in the sense that I don't know if anything is debated more in the GA than the All-Stars, and it's such a prestigious thing now. I just think as well, given that Damien Martin got the first All-Star 50 years ago, on the 50-year anniversary, I think it's going to be seriously interesting to see who gets the goalkeeping All-Star. And listen, you're not going to be right, and you're going to be wrong probably no matter what you do. That's just the nature of it. But I just think it could be maybe a little bit more, a little bit more objective than subjective. That's all.
Okay, so the Offaly final is on this weekend. Say Rynagh are looking for 3 in a row. Coolderry are looking to win back that county title. The semi-final, St. Rynagh beat Kilcormac Killahy 118 to 20 points, so just a point in that there. and Coolderry, they beat Shinrone 3-13 to 1-16. We'll start off with yourself, Michael, seeing as it is your native county. What way are you leaning here?
This is a tricky enough one. So Rynagh are going for 3 in a row against a Coolderry team that I don't think they've been beaten in a county final since 2006, I think. They 1 in 10, 1 in 11, 1 in 15, 1 in 18, beat Rynagh in 15 with a last-minute goal. Their ability to win county finals when they get there is it's unbelievable, really. That's why they're top of the Offaly Roll of Honour. There are so many threads to this game. So Ken Hogan is managing Rynagh, looking to do 3 in a row with them, having already won county titles with Burr in 91 and with Coolderry in 10 and 11, both of which got all the way to the All-Ireland club final after. So he's looking to create another bit of history with Rynagh. His record as a club manager is outstanding when you try and burst Kilcotton into it as well, and success even with the tip under 21s many moons ago. The betting on this is funny. Coolderry are 9-4 to win the game. And I definitely wouldn't put anyone off that. Rynagh are the most likely winners, but Coolderry in the final are so hard beaten, and the way they've regenerated their team, it's outstanding, really. And only a rural club with the kind of heart and tradition and kind of pride that they have could probably do it. They're still relying on Brian Carroll. Kevin Brady missed the semi-final with a hamstring injury. He'd probably be back. There's still a bit of a reliance on him, Kevin Conley and a few more. But you would think in Tullamore and with Rynagh's pace that they'd be able to get at Coolderry. But I'm not so sure. It's definitely not. This is definitely far from cut and dry anyway, I can tell you that.
Yeah, Phil, have you seen much of the Offaly Championship or keeping an eye on it? Oh.
The Meath games there recently, I know we'll be talking about that as well. But look, I trust Michael on this one now. If his gut instincts maybe saying Rynagh.
Yeah, just about Shane now, just about, and I think there's an interesting one in this as well. And I don't know if this has happened much. I'd like to kind of get from the viewers. Dermot Horn is based in the States, and he's Pádraig's son, the Offaly captain in 1981. So he's come back for the knockout stages. This is the 3rd year in a row he's done it, and they've won the last 2 when he's come back. He came on late in the semi-final. He's come on against us in the county final 2 years ago and got 2 points. He'll come back, and then he'll probably leave a couple of days after the county final, and we'll go back to the States and be based there. I just wonder, are there many other lads doing this at club level now? I know we spoke off air, and Jerry McInerney was the one you said, Shane, with Galway, who was basically based in the States for a lot of the time of the year. Kieran McManus was based in Germany when he was kicking football at Offaly there for a while and used to fly back at weekends. I just think it's fascinating. Probably has flown under the radar a bit, but it's a massive dedication to your club. Especially, he hadn't lived in Ireland for, I'm going to say, he hasn't lived in Ireland for 5 or 6 years, and he's coming back to represent his club in the knockout stages of the Offaly Championship. It's phenomenal, really.
Yeah, Cahir Healy did some serious commutes as well, Phil.
Yeah, I was going to ask Michael, the standard you see with Offaly obviously coming up, the county team kind of clearly seems to be going the right direction. Is that quality being reflected in the club championship? Because from the outside, you get the impression you're looking at the scores and the displays that it seems to be.
Yeah, no, Jez, I would definitely say so, Phil. Yeah, a couple of years ago, I would have said that standard dipped a good bit, but one of the things was we changed to an 8-team senior championship a couple of years ago, and all 8 could beat each other on a given day, which I think is a great championship. And Shane, me and you have talked about what they should do in Dublin. Something like that in Dublin, where there's not a load of hockey-ins each weekend, I think is great. And in Offaly, that's kind of the case it is now, even if it has been stretched to 10. And I think the quality has improved. I'd be a lot more hopeful of the Offaly champions representing Offaly well in Leinster this year than maybe the last couple of years. So I definitely would think so. And there's a lot of young talent, even though there's some older stagers still doing very well. There's a lot of younger talent kind of coming through too. So no, I think so. The hope springs eternal anyway over the next while anyway.
Data 6 says Luke O'Connor is on class form for Rynagh, and Aidan Tracy hasn't performed for him, so it'll be a good game to watch. John Moylan doing it for nearly 10 years with Baha in Galway. Johnny Glynn did it for a few years as well. Malumphey often came off deployment into a match a few days later as well. No doubt after a bit of a stint away with the army, he'd be hopping off the sod, surely, Phil.
Absolutely, yeah. He was travelling abroad. Who was Paddy Durkin coming back from Donegal, where he was based away for a while. Like I suppose
In Dubai, was he?
He was, yeah. So look, to do it for your club, whatever about coming back from county duty, like to be doing it for your club and commuting, like that's fair going.
Yeah, the Senior B final in Offaly this weekend is all the more interesting because Tullamore are supposed to be playing in the Leinster Club football as well, and they also have the B Offaly final, so it's not ideal.
Yeah, they're playing their neighbours, Cloudy Gales, in the Senior Hurling Championship B final. That's in Brennan's Park in Burr on Saturday. They obviously won the replay of the football final last weekend. They have a good handful of dual players, and it's just a bit of a disastrous situation where win, lose or draw. Like there's no point in saying any different. You're gonna want to go for a few jars with your teammates. Probably for a couple of days would normally be the case. It's funny actually saying that to people that are non-GA people. I was going around Dunboyne there. I live in Dunboyne in Meath, and you could see a couple of the Dunboyne women. I think it was Tuesday morning. They were going into one of the local pubs here after the county final on a Sunday. And like people who aren't in the GA don't get that. Don't get how they're able to do that. But it's just like, I suppose it's kind of like you live so monastically for long stages of the year that the week after a county final is just like, you know, a week to let the hair down or whatever. Yeah. But Tullamore won't get any chance to let their hair down because a lot of those guys are playing against Naas in the first round of the Leinster Club Championship on Sunday. Not an ideal scenario, but I remember Sir Kieran winning an Offaly title in 1998 on a Saturday, replay against Rynagh, and playing Kiltegan, the Wicklow champions, the next day, and they won both games. So imagine the session you'd have on the Sunday after if you did win the two of them.
Well, Shane, I remember a couple of years ago we won a Junior B, with typical Junior B. We were all sitting there thinking Swans and Currahan. One of the lads says, "Oh, look, I got to go," and everyone's kind of going, "Geez, Sunday night county final." And he says, "Oh, well, actually, I have school in the morning." You know, so he was in sixth year of college, so it was a Mark. So like you get that mix, you know, at club level you get the mix of the lads just out of juvenile age group and the 35 plus brigade.
Yeah, Phil, the Meath hurling final is on this weekend. Kiltale against Kildalkey. What sort of a final are you expecting there?
Oh, look, it should be good standard and close. I was at the Rathote Kiltale semi-final last Saturday. Unfortunately, Rathote got stuffed in the second half. Kiltale were just ran riot, really cleaned up around midfield. With Killian O'Sullivan, more known as a footballer, huge engine, like the great support play, always looking for runners off the shoulder. Jack Regan was pulling the strings in midfield, brilliant strike for a ball, diagonal ball inside all the time. Mark O'Sullivan made hay, Ross Ryan inside as well. So they, as a team, they worked really well together, really slick. Kildalkey were very impressive in the other semi-final, beat the holders Trim, and just beat Rathote after extra time last year, and beat them comprehensively. So again, you know, should be very tight. See Paddy Keneally there, big physical threat, very good scoring presence for Kildalkey. So it's hard to know, but looking at Kiltale, the way they kind of ran Rathote off the park last was very slick, really good sport play. So they look like they're kind of right on the money at the moment.
How different are Kiltale in the past couple of seasons? They'd won 5 in a row from 2014 to 2018, lost after a replay to Kildalkey then in 2019. Is it still the same core of players with Kiltale?
In the main part, yeah, because like I would have thought Trim and Rathote were the two clubs poised to kind of take over. They've dominated all the underage grades, the A championships, you know, minor and under 21. You know, Trim were going for, was it 4 in a row, minor until this year. So like Kiltale would have been the traditional powerhouse, but haven't really been mapped in quite the same way at underage at all. So for when Kiltale's 5 in a row ended, you were kind of there going to thinking maybe there's going to be a transfer of power, but it hasn't happened yet. They're very well managed. I think Brian Gilson's been there for years. Paddy Kelly been around Meath hurling a long time there, so they seem to be kind of have a very clear idea what they're doing. And again, they've won a super brilliant young footballer, Owen Frayne. He came in at halftime last week and think we were involved with the Meath Miners, and we would have had him. We'd love to have had him as a hurler, brilliant ball striker, super player, but just kind of footballer first. So they've guys like that ready to come in.
And if you were to put your neck on the block for this one,
maybe Kiltale. Just after seeing them firsthand, they were very impressive in the second half last week.
We were talking at the top of the show about Kevin O'Brien leaving Corofin and his sort of legacy there, the first manager ever to lead a club to a 3 in a row of All-Ireland club titles. I mean, it really is, number one, it is a serious legacy to do that. And obviously they got beaten in the final by Ballinamore-Sean last Sunday. But what legacy, and like, who's even up in the same rarefied air as him considering what he's done?
Well, it's hard. I know we kind of give out about branding at times and promos, but that tag, the toughest, like the club championship, to come back every year, you could easily argue that it really is the toughest championship. So when Ballyhale came along, like Henry Shefflin made management look so easy, it was ridiculous, really. The fact that you come along and win back-to-back All-Ireland. But to do 3, Corofin were the first and the only team to ever win a 3 in a row, weren't they? So like that puts that team clearly on a pedestal. And you've the brilliant Crossmaglen team under Joe Kernan and with Ush McConville and all that as well. They were incredible. But, to do 3 in a row, I'd love to see was it Ballyhale were just deprived of that opportunity through COVID. So I don't know, will it count if they go on and win this one?
I think it would,
have
wouldn't
to,
it?
yeah.
You can't blame them for not winning a competition that wasn't ran.
Yeah. Is it nearly more impressive to still have that team and still be able to go on and win one? When everything is in a row and you're able to kind of keep the ball rolling. But the gap, I think, nearly would make it even more impressive in my view. I don't know.
It would, but in Ballyhale, I was chatting to a few of them there recently, and they said the break and COVID actually gave them a chance to recharge in a way that you never get in the old traditional club championship. One campaign runs into the other. All the county lads get, flayed then with the county, so they don't get a break. So it's kind of been a weird one in that respect, Michael. So
yeah, I spoke with Owen Finnerty of Mount Ballinamore-Sean this week, and he was saying that, I mean, obviously COVID hasn't worked for anybody, but he said in a footballing sense that it's the first time, over the past couple of years that every single player that would tog out for him did tog out for him. And also just, it was probably that one period where injuries weren't absolutely crippling them, that they had, the dailies, all those different players available for them, himself included, because he had so many injuries. But what about some other managers that like we've seen in comments already? Henry Shefflin mentioned, Matty Kenny, Padjo Whelan. Even with Crossmaglen, I know you mentioned Kernan because he won 3 titles in 4 years with Cross. But Tony McEntee and Garrett O'Neill, they won 3 Armaghs. I think probably, is it 2 or 3 Ulsters? I think 3 Ulsters as well and 2 All-Ireland crowns. They've done well. And then Malachy O'Rourke, right? He's obviously still building his CV, but go back 18 years ago, he won that county title with the Loop in Derry. But also, I think he's been successful with Ergel Kira, obviously done a lot with Monaghan. And now with the Glen last weekend as well, the first ever county title in Derry. So he's built some CV.
I mean, is that not different in a way? Like there's another dimension to that, Shane, to do it with different clubs, different styles, in different counties. Like that's incredible. If you say you look at the Crossmaglen model and the Corofin, they're very much, there's a culture there of playing a certain way. I think we all saw the clip in Corofin at Croke Park. Was it the under 12s game, the Go games at half time? And there was a goal went in and won the All-Ireland finals. That was a mirror image of how the senior football team was playing. Just incredible support play and kicking the ball. So you've kind of one team come along and a culture and a club. And compared to, and same in Ballyhale, say compared to Malachy O'Rourke, you go in blind to a club and take a different bunch of footballers years apart and try and achieve or reach achievement like that. So that's why we all look at kind of the Cody achievements and different things and wonder, could you ever do it in another place? And I guess Padjo Whelan was mentioned as well. Like Burr had a very distinct identity, didn't they, Mike? Like a really distinct identity, as Crossmaglen and Corofin would.
Big time. I suppose, same as Malachy, Padjo would have went to Tumivara and won a county with them. And he was actually the manager when Nina won their last Tipperary title as well. So like I think I do agree with you. When you've done it in several different places, it's not the same talent pool, or it's not generation wise, or there's not a culture. You're basically moving from place to place and trying to, I suppose, implement some of your culture in what they've done. And Malachy with the Loop, they won an Ulster title, didn't he? which is just
so,
you know, that's crazy. Like really, like it's mad. And like I know Ulster club football is very, very competitive, but you know, you wouldn't be thinking that the Glen are going to be too far away either this year, based on his previous history anyway.
Yeah. The Dublin final is on this weekend. Obviously, Crokes did the impossible, we'll call it, last week, but they're looking to frank the form with a county title again this week. They play St. Jude's in the Dublin football final. Do you consider this right? So let's look at Loughmore, who are also in a county final this weekend in Tipperary. Considering that there's only one player who's lining out for both codes for Crokes, how do you compare and contrast what the clubs are doing, Phil?
It's completely different.
Yeah.
Like it's completely different, you know. And I guess it's the rural versus urban, the numbers game. Like, you know, Loughmore, they can't afford to have one guy who doesn't play both. Like the teams wouldn't be successful. They don't have the panel depth, the pool. So it's just a very different way of competing. And it's not to, like Kilmacud, it's not to downplay what they've done, because actually, if you look at it, you could counter argue that, look, you've a brilliantly talented pool of players in Tip who are kind of playing across both, and it's built around the same players. Whereas Kilmacud are competing on both fronts with basically two different squads, which is remarkable in a way, you know. So there's two very different ways of looking at it, but they're definitely not the same thing.
Can you imagine if you didn't play hurling or football in Loughmore or Castleiney, and how much of a pariah you'd be around the place?
Hey, do you know actually another manager that comes to mind when we're talking about someone who's done it in different places? Tom Mullally, actually. He's probably not the most heralded across the board, but didn't he win? He was with Clara and he won the county title. The year before, I think he'd won the All-Ireland Intermediate with them, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he was with them the whole way through, yeah.
He took Mount Leinster Rangers all the way to an All-Ireland final. You know, a team that nobody was expecting to do that, and they obviously beat Oulart in the Leinster final. And he's been involved with the Carlow Miners, won 2 titles now with Naoise, and, you know, one of them there last weekend. So that's a serious CV also, isn't it?
That's fair going now, and he's obviously mixing Naoise duties with county duties in Carlow, and we said this, and said it to Fintan O'Toole a couple of times on the show. The split season will allow the best managers and the best coaches to ply their trade both at county and club level now as well. And Shane, you asked earlier, maybe why are some of the club championships, why are all the games of such quality? Maybe that's one small part in it, because they're just being coached better, and they have an exact time frame that they're going to be playing at a time of the year that they're going to be playing in, whereas opposed to other years, probably wouldn't have had a clue.
Michael, but look at that. Look at the form of Paul Mannion. You know, a lot of the Dubs players, some of the cream, they came in battered, injured. Paul Mannion in previous years, again, carrying injury from a really long All-Ireland campaign with Dublin. And a lot of the players would have been not at their best or wrecked after that. Whereas now the clubs are getting the best out of the players. And look at Mannion, I believe, just absolutely flying it and playing a bit deeper, isn't he? Now, but Judes are really good. More than Afina, brilliant story there. That I was just doing a piece for the weekend and Sunday and talking to one of the lads who kind of been involved the whole way up, but like they're only set up in 78, you know, they're very, so for them, more than Fina, to get a first title would be huge. Yeah, and they have a huge amount of club teams between both codes, boys and girls, all the way up. Like I think there was someone did a piece there in the last year or so about the amount of club teams that Ballyboden would have, that Crokes would have, that St. Jude's would have, and they obviously have this. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a mini little cinema for they're doing their video analysis stuff. They have a great setup there, and something that you wouldn't see too often down the country is themselves and another club are side by side. Like Fogs, they're right beside them. We're talking an absolute stone's throw, so that, which is kind of interesting to see. But they've also brought in players from elsewhere, and this is something where you say fair play to the club, because they've opened the door and allowed players to feel welcome. But like they've gotten serious quality into the bargain there. Like Niall Coakley's played with Cork, his brother Brian is there, David Mannix, who's obviously quality inside forward and has definitely added something to them this year. Jack Maguire in a full back, Pat Spillane, obviously son of, in midfield. He got man of the match in the semi-final, got some great scores there, and Mark Sweeney of Antrim. So I'm not saying they obviously haven't gone recruiting these players, but by God, they've picked up some seriously good players. So. Absolutely, yeah. Again, I was talking to one of the lads, and he kind of saying, look, there's been a bit of talk about that and all that. He said, no more Jude's would have had a lot of country connections, and they picked up players through different connections. And I suppose that's the thing with Dublin with Dublin clubs. Wasn't it when Vincent were winning previously? And everybody's looking at they had the whole homegrown thing initially, but that kind of ship has sailed. Look at Vincent went down and the relegated Senior B this year. So there's that competition for players is there all the time in Dublin. But like for Jude, I think there's a real sense that they have been building. They were there a couple of years ago, weren't they, against Kilmacud, and you players like Kevin McMenamin still leading the charge.
Yeah. What way are you leaning for this game, Michael? I mean, I think it's going to be Crokes again. There's too much quality there. Like Shane Horn, I've been very impressed by him. Shane, and he's obviously lines out for Offaly, which you see regularly enough. Shane Cunningham, I think, is a brilliant both target man and finisher. Obviously, Paul Mannion too, and Darragh Mullen. They've a lot of different scorers. Yeah,
I just think it's kind of gas. Like St. Jude is obviously the patron of lost causes, and they've been beaten in 2 finals in the last decade. They've been in a heap of semi-finals. They've got, as you said, they've got a load of talent. Funny one, actually, David Mannix, the inside forward, he's actually doing strength and conditioning with us in Burr this year. He was S&C with Roscommon, I think, last year, and maybe for the last couple of years as well. But it's funny just to see the amount of Kerry and Cork lads there, and as you said, an Antrim player as well. I was very impressed with them in the semi-final, I have to say. The game was over after 40 minutes. But you would be looking at, like, Mannion has just been so good this year as well. A lot will come down to what Judes are going to do to stop him. And we talked about, Rona Matter and different guys, how you need to kind of keep the best player out of the game. Very, very going to be very, very difficult for them to keep him out of it. And even if they do, that you'd imagine will create openings for others. I'd probably just be favouring Crokes, but I have a feeling this might end up even. I'm actually not sure if it's extra time or not at the weekend, but I have a feeling this could be very, very tight. I think Crokes will win it, but I think they'll win it eventually.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way, but you look at the half-back line of Jude's. Tom Lahiff's been very good. Kevin Guckey and Mark Sweeney we've already mentioned. So, probably going to be a kick of a ball in it, Phil.
Yeah, it looks, in terms of parallels, even to last weekend, where you had a club in Nafina, you were wondering would the lack of baggage help them in a way, and they very nearly came along and did it. But and then you look at the counter argument, the bit of experience they couldn't close out the game, and look, clearly if you're weighing things up, like Jude's be looking at the Fina kind of going, we get a good start, can we close it out? Or personally, again, I'd be maybe shading to Kilmacud have that winning experience to get them over the line. But I think looking ahead, both of whoever wins it, the two teams is serious standard. So I'd say they're going to make a right stab for Leinster and All Ireland.
The Mayo finals on this weekend. The Bullets from Ballinamore against Loughmore. Loughmore have been very impressive this year, Michael. So I'm sort of immediately starting to lean towards them, especially after watching them last year.
Yeah, it was funny. I was chatting to Terry Kennedy's basketball coach. He's been involved with Loughmore in recent years, and their style of play, their ability to move the ball, as quickly through the hands as they do, and the use of a lot of basketball movements has definitely helped them an awful lot. Obviously, Kevin McLaughlin is going to be probably the big name that we know. Having gotten over the line last year, having ended a bit of a famine, to be back there again and to have overcome plenty of adversity along the way, that's a fair sign of their intent. And if Ballinamore are going to win the Mayo title, they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it handy off Loughmore, I can tell you that. But Ballinamore have been brilliant. It's just been yet another one of those great kind of club stories. Like, they weren't expected to beat Westport the last day out. They're not expected to be here. And if you're looking at over the last few years, you would have been looking at Mitchell's, Ballina, Stephenites. It's definitely, it's probably not a final that you would have predicted at the start of the year anyway.
I'm clear. What's the odds of a Joe Biden phone call if Loughmore win? You know the link there, the same as the Carneys that he was on the phone call to the Irish Rugby. Loretta Blewett is a third cousin of the president, has met him, been over there. So she's one of the most, I think, high-profile Loughmore supporters, if you listen to the Tommy and Hector podcast with her. So I don't know, what chance of a phone call to congratulate Loughmore on a county final win?
It's some phone call to get, wouldn't it? Imagine the boys just going absolutely mad, or if he gave the phone call the Monday morning, maybe after the county final.
Well, the two Irish cousins, you have the Carneys on one side and the Blewitts on the other, so he's got to balance the books, surely.
The Tip County final is also on this weekend. Clonmel Commercials against Loughmore-Castleiney. I was talking to Conor O'Dwyer, who's a Tip football chairman, and Shane Brophy on Tipcast. So I'll play a little bit of just a few seconds of a clip from that yesterday.
17 weeks in a row, that's nothing to Loughmore. I'm thinking they go 27 if they had to. So, yeah, you'd say Commercials have the talent, but everyone thought that last year. But last year was a superb game of football. I know the hurling county final was top class last year as well. But the football final, not to be there, you would have missed out on a great occasion. And hopefully we get something similar. But, I'd say Commercials gnarly, but for Loughmore, wouldn't surprise me at all. I think they're 15 senior football county final. An amazing club, no doubt about it, and hopefully a cracking game.
Yeah, no, it's I suppose I think in last year's final there was definitely probably a hangover from the week before with Loughmore. Like in the first half, they really didn't seem to get into the match, and it was after half time when they really got going. And I think there were 6 or 7 down at one stage, and they got it back level before Jack Kennedy scored that brilliant point to win it. Like so. It'd be interesting. I suppose they're. I suppose like it's a county final. I suppose it's where mentally Loughmore are going to be this week. Whether like I suppose in terms of like they never officially asked for the football to be put back a week, so it leads me to think that actually maybe they're actually happier maybe to have a change of view for a week before they go back thinking about the hurling, and like they have. I suppose it'll be interesting to see whether the likes of Brian McGrath will play in this. It probably will be harder to play football with a broken thumb. Maybe, I suppose it's off his probably hand pass in hand. He probably wouldn't be able to get away with it in this game. And maybe if there's one eye on the hurling, if anybody with a niggle, will they be maybe held back or anything? So I think that would be the interesting thing from a Loughmore perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that is an interesting one, Phil. If you're Brian McGrath and you've gotten through 60 minutes last week of the hurling final, I would imagine that football is a little bit more unforgiving with a broken thumb, because I don't know, whatever is about hurling, like if you have a broken thumb, you can nearly blend it in with the rest of the hand and just hold the hurley. I'm not sure his catching hand or his striking hand, but I think in football, when you're constantly going around grabbing lads and trying to knock the ball out and stuff like that, I think that would be a riskier one. So I wouldn't be shocked if he's not playing in this. No,
it's got the conversations the managers must have, or the management would have it. Clearly, it must be a lot easier that don't they have the same crew kind of running the same bunch, because I'm sure you can imagine 2 different managers kind of going, well, played a bit of hurling last week, lads. He's playing the football. You could imagine war across the board with different players. So at least in fairness, they have a great setup there. They know kind of to do the right thing, and they've been knocking on the door. You'd love to see the lads, given the commitment, just kind of get some sort of reward this year, whether hurling or football.
It's funny you should say that, Phil, because I believe with Aidan McCarthy's injury, he's playing between Aina Kilnamona and Kilmurray Bricken, that he was past fit by one club and wasn't past fit by the other. So like that's a disastrous situation. At least Frankie McGrath will make a call in Loughmore, and it's for the best of both teams. But I'd be like you, Shane. Football's a disaster. He'd be rubbing off lads. Imagine it could be in extreme pain after 20 seconds in a football game or something like that. He can't block down a lad. I remember John McGrath saying one time that he played for Loughmore, he had a groin strain or something like that for the whole year. He couldn't kick the ball. He was just going around hand passing. But like how I'm not sure how we go about it. I don't know if it's feasible.
Yeah, whether you can strap a hand and put it inside a glove and get a bit of protection, there. But yeah, it's like Shane said, or Mike said, it looks very tricky.
Yeah, the Westmeath final, the replay is on this weekend. So it was 13 points apiece between St. Lomans and Garrycastle the last time out. A 30-metre free from John Heslin with the last kick, showing some serious cojones to take this to a replay. Do you think we're going to see 42-year-old Desi Dolan again, Phil? Because I don't think that this was something that was forecast going into that final.
No, I guess that's where old footballers go, isn't it? The club championship. So, why not? Why not fair play to him? Didn't I see? Wasn't it Alan Kearns added in Galway as well? wasn't it, to the Clarenbridge squad recently? Yeah. So, like lads, I think a club we all know that experience in a tight game can make such a difference. So, like why not?
Just on that, Shane, as well, Declan Kelly that managed Offaly under-20s to the All-Ireland, he's over Lohmans and was over them last year as well. So he's going for a pretty unique double to be fair going to win All-Ireland and a county title all in 1 year.
Yeah, there's plenty of other football happening over the weekend, but just to quickly touch on a couple of others there. Ballinamore-Sean O'Heslin's there again of Leitrim. They're against Mountbellew-Mylock of Galway in the Connacht Club quarter-final. Like that Leitrim final, it feels like it was many moons ago at this stage, Phil. But what a brilliant win that was for Ballinamore.
And a brilliant showcase. Like again, you look at TG Cahir, what they've done for the GA and sport and live sport. So I think like that match being on, was it like got a huge reaction to it, and read Tommy Connon wrote a lovely piece about what it meant as a Ballinamore. But I think if you're weighing up the club championship, you kind of go, okay, who's won their first title since God knows? And then you kind of automatically write them off for the provincial. Like it's so much tougher. They've had a bit of a break, I guess, which helps. But there's such emotion at times in first-time clubs coming along that you tend to kind of go with the experienced teams who've been there, maybe fallen through the cracks or made the mistakes that plenty of others have in the past, or just celebrated and kind of been swept up in the emotion. So it's suffer, but great story, Ballinamore.
It's funny on that one, Shane. You now have two first-time county champions playing off against each other. At least the Ballinamore lads have had plenty of time to get, as you'd say, the dirty petrol out of the system. The Mountbellew-Mylock lads were still riding the crest of a wave, I'd say, maybe up until a day or two ago, and they're both playing each other at the weekend, so that's going to be tricky.
Are there many teams with like first-time champions with the talent of Mountbellew-Mylock? I mean, Owen Finnerty, obviously, I mentioned him already. He's a good player. The Dailies. Like they just seem to have such quality. The way they moved the ball around against Carfin, they didn't just beat them. They ran him into the ground as far as I could tell, Phil.
Yeah, and just like Michael's making the point about first time, but you just get the sense that Mountbellew have been building to this for a while. That there was I don't think there was a sense of, oh great, we've won a county, Carfin are bet. You just get a sense, given that the standard of the Galway champions has been the standard of the All-Ireland champions, that surely they would have had one eye on this and would definitely have bigger ambitions. So I just get the sense that this was always maybe part of the plan, or they would have wanted this to be always part of the plan.
Yeah. Michael, any final thoughts on that before we move on to the Glen playing this weekend?
No. I think I would be fancying Mountbellew-Mylock, and I think they give Connacht a right shot. In fairness, as you say, the talent at their disposal is massive, and they've been coming up against the best. They've beaten the best. They beat Corofin last year. They beat them this year. Like, you'd imagine they'd be fairly well primed for this now. This would be one of the more difficult games, I'd say. To get this out of the system and get the county final success out of the system, they could go pretty far, I'd say.
Yeah, round one of Ulster then, St. Eunan's against the Glen. And I spoke with Conor Glass during the week, and he was saying the interesting part of this is when I think his underage group was winning like Derry and Ulster titles around 2011 to 2014, that neck of the woods, that they actually came up against St. Eunan's, and Sean Patton was in goals and Niall O'Donnell was presumably in the forward line, and they're coming up against them again. So there's a small bit of history there, but geez, the way the Glen did it was their first county title ever, but they beat Schlockneil very, very well. Could they go on a run here, Phil?
Of course they could. And it was interesting to hear, Conor, was he saying that if they didn't win something, he'd probably be thinking of heading back to Australia again, to AFL direction. So it's amazing the kind of the story, the way storylines go. But look, St. Eunan's, that I don't know, did you watch the Donegal county final? It was a bit of your life.
The memorable elbow at the end.
Yeah, it was tough out watch, but like Eunan's still have a load of quality, and you just get the impression maybe wasn't, there wasn't a whole lot of it. They didn't kind of get to showcase all of that day. So, like the kind of hardy team, they look kind of made for a run, I think, at this time of year as well.
Yeah. There's loads of other games going on this weekend. Turlestrana against St. Kieran's, that's in Connacht. Naomh Martins are against Rathvilly. Mullinachta against Blessington. Naas against Tullamore. That's all in Leinster Club. Fermanagh final is on. Derry Gonley Harps against Enniskillen, and the Waterford football final is on as well. Rathgormack against the Nair. Phil, you've been very good for joining us there. Not sure if you have any final thoughts before you hop off.
No, isn't it isn't it Michael Ryan of Ballymacarbery, he's managing or helping with the footballers, isn't he involved again in that final, was it Racormac, you know? So it's like he's incredible coaching record, like all the All-Irelands. So like again, that'll be just for somebody to be kind of consistently there with different teams. It's unbelievable. So no, it'll be one to watch as well.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Well, Phil, really enjoyed having you on, and hopefully we'll chat again soon.
Thanks, lads.
Cheers, Phil.
So that was Phil Lanigan there. We're actually going to finish off the show by bringing on our man Naoise Waldron and doing a nice little segment that we like to do, Pick the Lock. And look, take it away there, Naoise.
How are you boys? How's it going?
All
We're
good.
hurling well.
Sure, what can we say? We had a decent old weekend last weekend. Now, a lot of the stuff we kind of talked about actually came in. Verney hung the onions and it paid off. That was a class shout. That was a great shout.
It didn't work out for me, Naoise.
No, I know. Yeah, I know for you. But myself, Verney, and the viewers, we got our locks. What are you? 0-2. I'm 1-1. Verney's 1-1, and the viewers are 1-1 as well. And a lot of the stuff that we talked about, you know, came in. Say Castleknock were evens, that came in. That came in. A lot of the other stuff. Now, one of the bigger ones we were talking, remember myself and Verney were saying the -1 for Kilmacud Crokes. Like what we were talking about happened at the end of the match instead of throughout the entire match. It was sick. I know. No good is right. But hey, what can I say? When you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time. Vikings +3, that came in as well. Deadly shout. And if you had Patrick Hickey's horse each way, you're probably laughing a bit as well. He came
That's
second.
an outrageous weekend. Like, it's just one of them weekends when everything clicked.
Yeah, Patriots covered as well. We talked about that. Now, the Bills covered as well in the NFL. But 2 let us down big time there. And that treble I was talking about, the Rams, absolutely dirty the britcher, as Stapleton would say, against the 49ers. And Kyle Shanahan proving that he still rules the roost over Sean McVay. So that was a big time loss. And Tom Brady, we thought after coming off a bye week, angry Tom Brady and all that stuff, the Buccaneers get back on track. They didn't. They got bet again by the Washington football team, even though Chase Young went out. Brutal. Cat Melogian. So, yeah, it was a good old weekend. Now, if you're just watching, 2 locks came in. I have another good lock here for myself this weekend. I'm feeling pretty confident in my lock. So,
are you going to go and declare your lock straight away? No,
I'm not. No. I'm going to start off because I was looking at the hurling and football for the weekend. There's a few really nice ones I like the look of and the thought of. A few decent priced games as well. In Cork, especially, actually, right? So I was just looking there in Ballinhasig versus Castleiney, right? 4-9. Castleiney are favourite. Ballinhasig 2-1. The Glen versus Middleton, right? The Glen are odds on. Middleton are 13-8, and the handicap is 2. I would not be surprised at all if Middleton beat the Glen, right?
Oh, don't be stealing my lock off me here.
Right, that's just all I'm saying. Adder O'Neill's versus Kinturk, both are evens. So, you know, there could be a double up there, one of them, and then whoever you favour in the senior county final could be a nice little double for you if you want to do it. And then at Meath, you have Kiltale versus Kildalkey. And what are you thinking about Rynagh versus Coolderry, Verney?
All the value is Coolderry in that game anyway. And I wouldn't be that is big value. I think they're 9-4. I have to say, I do think that's big value. As I said on the show, they haven't been beaten in a county final since 2006, I think. Then they've won the last 5 they've been in. So once they're there, they're going to be very hard beaten, I have to say. So I wouldn't be putting anyone off that.
It's Rynagh's -3 is evens.
Yeah, I don't like it. Don't like it now, being honest with you. I take the +3 on the other side if that was me now, I have to say.
It's 10-11. Are we allowing stuff that isn't at least minimum, or at least evens minimum?
Naoise, what's your thoughts on a 5-6 shot?
I don't mind this either, or 9 to 10. So a lot of the in the
Where do you
NFL
draw the
betting,
line? There has to be a line somewhere.
so I think anything over something like something like that's 1 to 3, like is just that's waste time, because a lot of the spreads in the NFL and the college football is just looking there again. They're all like 5 to 6, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, and then some of them then will be 11 to 10 or evens or whatever. But it's a lot of them. Okay, 11 to 10, yeah. But see, I don't know, 9 to 10 like is to be ruling that out, I think is harsh. 5 to 6 to be ruling that out, I think is harsh as well.
5 to 6 without a handicap. If there's no handicap, like.
But where do you draw the line? Because I got caught week 1 going -4 on Ballyhale to get evens, and it cost me. Whereas if I had to get
different. There were 2 to 5 or something to win again.
Yeah,
That's
no, there were 2 to 7.
But where do you draw the line? You have to draw the line somewhere. There has to be a hard and fast line.
The line is drawn in that if you put £1 down, you'll get nearly £1 back in your winnings.
A good pound. a pound. There you go. 4 to 6. Look, how about that? Draw the line of 4 to 6.
Oh, I don't know. I think it has to be evens. But if you want to go 4 to 6, I'll go 4 to 6.
I would be drawing the line at what you said, Naoise, that there's no more than 1 between the two numbers. So 10 to 11, 9 to 10, 5 to 6, 4 to 5. That type of thing.
Stuff, yeah. 1 to 2, yeah.
1 to 2?
No, 1 to 2 is too short. 1 to 2 is too short.
Okay.
I mean, over that. I'm going to talk myself into riddles now. From that.
2 to 3 is no good either.
That doesn't read that. Any proper bookmaker wouldn't give you 2 to 3 anyway.
I was just going to say, I don't think I've ever seen that. But grand. So that's what we'll decide. Yeah. So no 1 to 2, grand. And then Cool Derry, you were saying, in the county final, as a friend of mine would always say, like a dog's behind, or hard bet.
There you go.
So, and then the big football county finals in Dublin as well, up in the big smoke. Kilmacud Crokes looking to do double in hurling and football, and they are -2 on the handicap, which is 11 to 10 or 1 to 2 to win. Jude's are 2 to 1, just straight up. And then
what's Jude's +2?
Jude's +2 is 10 to 11.
Oh, that's not so bad.
So you could do that if you wanted.
If I'm looking for a 5 to 6, I'm going to be going for Middleton +2.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm going to lock her in.
Oh,
that's my lock of the week. 5 to 6, Middleton +2. Look, I need to get back into contention, and I think I've just secured it there because I'm on an 0 for 2 record at the moment. You're both 1-1, aren't you? And are the viewers 1-1?
They are. They picked Loughmore last week to cover, and they did.
Yeah.
That was
as you know, we're going to be based on your comments. We're going to put up a poll for the viewers to pick their bet of the week, and we're going to keep this run going all the way up to Christmas to see who wins and who is the king of the locks.
So, folks, you know what not to back now, and now myself and Naoise will tell you what to back for the weekend. I'm glad the 5 to 6 has been given the thumbs up. I'm going to be down in Brennan's Park on Saturday when Tullamore take on Clodagh Gales in the Senior B final. Tullamore also going for the double, and they're a tasty 5 to 6 to get the job done. So I'm locking him down, baby.
He's locking.
There it is. Within the first 5 minutes of the show, 2 locks in. We're 2 locks in, boys and girls. So there you go. And again, remember, keep getting your comments in. Andrew Sullivan, I saw he had in. He's 2 for 2 on what he's put in for the American football bets. 2 great shouts. Patrick Hickey had a winner.
Is it Clodagh?
Yeah, and then
he's going directly up against me in that game.
A lock off.
Clodagh Gales, yeah, lovely.
There you go. That'll have to be into the poll for the viewers as well. And then Patrick Hickey's horses, he had a winner, and then give you a rope, man, if you listen to the saying. Yeah.
Hey, CJ and Cesta in Clonmel should roast Loughmore. What's the handicap? I might try and look that up there, but there was only a point in it in the county final last year.
Oh, yeah. I don't have that up in front of me, actually.
They're not coming in, Shane, this year with all the, how they were coming in disastrous circumstances last year, having lost the county final after extra time as well, when it looked like their hands were on the trophy. So I think they're coming in probably ruder health this year. It's better timing for them anyway.
It's -2. I'm finding online. Like the straight up is 4 to 9 for Loughmore, 4 to 9 for Clonmel, 94 for Loughmore, 15 to 2 for the draw at a 2-point handicap.
And Loughmore's games are low scoring games. 2 points is a lot in a, I wouldn't be fancying that now.
Yeah. Isha?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Wouldn't know much about the football and tip, I'm afraid. But St. Pat's in, when you know the the shades and the hat on broadcast. I'd know a big Loughmore-Castleiney, I suppose. So, what are we talking about there? Sorry, Jesum all over the Sorry, the football. So, Coola, in the Senior B, are -4 handicap is what they're on against Temple Oak, Sing Street. Will they be singing? Oh, who knows? And then St. Pat's Donabate, where I'm the Games Development Officer. Believe it or not, lads, I have a real job. They are playing Round Towers Clondalkin in the intermediate final, and they're slightly, the odds on that are very, very close. I don't have it right open in front of me here now, but they're very close. Again, I think there's money to be made in the Dublin finals this weekend. Maybe an outside bet of a treble there with probably, I would say, Pat's, Crokes and Coola. I would be, an outside treble. Like last week, I was saying, remember, try maybe double up the Patriots with, Patriots to cover along with maybe either the Packers or the Rams. And then I said the outside bet was the treble. 2 of the 3 came in. So hopefully somebody did that. It was over 2.5 to 1 if you did a double with Patriots and the Packers. So anyway, American football this weekend. I got my lucky Coach Bombay jacket on me again this week, baby. So we're going to go, right? There's a few nice ones I like the look of again in the NFL this weekend, right? Few kind of be wary of, just just keep an eye out. You know yourselves every weekend, especially tonight, right? I see the Patriots are 6.5 favorites, 6.5 point favorites against the Falcons. That you'd be expecting them to cover and beat the Falcons with the 6.5 point margin. But Thursday night football is crazy. We saw last week what happened in the Ravens game, and they got beaten by the Dolphins. Just mental. So I'd just stay away from Thursday night games, right? Just watch them, enjoy them in the morning, watch the highlight segment on YouTube for 15 minutes in the morning. That's what I usually do. But anyway, here we go. Browns are playing the Lions, and the spread is 11.5. I don't trust either team to do anything right now, right? The Browns got absolutely pasted by the Patriots last week. The Lions are coming off a draw. As Vince Lombardi used to say, it's like kissing your sister when you get a tie. Nobody likes a tie. So they're coming off a tie. They covered last week. Will they cover this week? The Lions, who knows? 11.5 is a big spread. The Browns are beaten to death. No Kareem Hunt, no Nick Chubb, I don't think. And, Baker Mayfield not playing well. See their flash covers of the Lions bring it home. I don't know about bringing it home. They haven't won a game yet this season. And we're in, week 11 now in the NFL. They haven't won a game yet. Maybe to cover at 11.5. We'll see. The Packers, my Green Bay Packers,
your lads,
are minus.
Most boring team going.
Cheers as well. Not too boring when you're winning 8 out of 10 games, is it?
Their game against the Seahawks at the weekend was tragically boring.
Sure, doesn't matter. Sure, they won 17-0. Russell Wilson going around there pretending he's playing against imaginary players. He thought he was still playing against imaginary players, throwing the ball to the Packers. Somebody should have told him he was wearing white.
It was so bad. I nearly turned it off.
Well, sure. Look, they won 17. You can only bet what's put in front of you. And that's what Matt LaFleur does, right? And so this weekend they're playing the Vikings, and it's 2.5 is the spread, right? So usually when it's under 3, like I said last week, when it's that close, who do you trust more? Coach and quarterback combination. Do you coach or do you trust both unvaccinated quarterbacks now that I think of it? Kirk Cousins going around in his plexiglass box in meetings and stuff. Do you trust him or do you trust Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur?
Hey, Aaron Rodgers is getting good advice from Joe Rogan, to be fair.
Joe, good old Joe, Dr. Rogan.
Throwing him out of sup if I ever make them.
Well, you look at now he's clear for the next 60 whatever days, seeing as he got it, and now he doesn't have to get whatever anyway. But actually, and then I only heard during the week there apparently that he mightn't be allowed to play in if they make a Super Bowl if he's unvaccinated, which would be a bit mental. So anyway, we'll see. But -2.5, I like the Packers to cover that spread there. Cardinals are -2.5 against the Seahawks, but again, the Cardinals are absolutely torn to pieces. Who knows if Kyler Murray's going to play? DeAndre Hopkins, I have him on my fantasy team. Waste time. He's always hurt, even though he's unbelievable, obviously, right? But he's always hurt. Don't even know if he's going to be playing again. So that's a hard one to call. Cowboys versus the Chiefs, probably the game of the weekend. Can't wait for this one. And it's -2.5 in favour of the Chiefs. Remember, like I was saying last week, they rarely, if ever, cover the spread. They did last week, of course. After I bring it up, they cover it. So it's all about the W. Damn right, Sullivan. And then another one I like is the Bengals against the Raiders -1. Bengals are -1 against the Raiders.
The Raiders are falling apart.
Yeah, this is it. So if you try, all you have to do is win, right? Mahomes to send the Cowboys packing. Well, just win, baby. Yeah, but the other way around. Something the Bengals are never usually able to do. Yeah, look, there's a lot of money to be made there, I think, in those games that we mentioned. But my luck this weekend, right? I had to request the price a couple of times. I'm still actually waiting on the price, but I asked the boys, friends of mine, abroad in Montana, right? This game, it was snubbed by ESPN College Game Day. I'm not going to snub it this week. I'm bringing your attention to it. It's the game, the biggest game in the college football weekend this weekend. It's the Brawl of the Wild. It's in Washington Grizzly Stadium, and there's two things you don't do. Invade Russia in winter and come into Washington Grizzly Stadium and win. That's why I am locking up your Montana Grizzlies, baby, to beat Montana State. Here we go, yeah. Bringing out the old copper and gold, Montana. Yeah, your Grizzlies are going to beat. They're actually, the Montana State Bobcats are 3.5-point favorites, but I am locking up the University of Montana Grizzlies to win, just to win. I'm going to get the price. I'll tweet it up in case anyone's going to argue with me, but I'm locking them up. The Grizzlies, the handicap from good friends of mine over in God's country, are telling me 3.5-point underdogs. Montana are not in the house that Hawk built. Bobby Hawk is back as the coach with the Grizzlies. They're going to stick it to State. That's it. That's my lock of the week.
I literally have no idea what you've been talking about for the last 2 minutes.
This is how I feel when people. This is how I feel when people start talking about horses.
I was just amazed when you talked about the Falcons that you didn't say the Atlanta Falcons.
Yes, the Atlanta Falcons.
I'd also mention Loughmore to win the county final in Mayo. Now they're 4-6 straight up, but that's not going to count. You're not going to allow a 4-6. -1 is evens. That's not bad now.
Yeah.
Between
No.
that and Middleton +2, I think I'm going to be back on form.
Someone said last week that you should stay away from the football on Monday, Shorty. You haven't got an absolute dust about football. When you know more.
James, let's do it for God's country. Amen to the Grizzlies. Sullivan, Naoise, you're a gas man, and Verney and his horses. Jesus. Have you any horses for this weekend?
No, it's very difficult on a Thursday because you don't have the declarations. You don't have the declarations for
Too
Sunday.
windy.
Too windy to back up to tip a horse that probably won't run.
avoiding the saddle.
Avoiding the whip. Never avoided the whip. In fairness, never avoided the whip.
Okay, watch the show opinion. Sorry, and then the soccer. Sorry, there was a couple of ones in soccer I was going to bring up. Right, if you're brave enough, City versus Everton is -2. Right. West Ham are 7-4 just to beat. Sorry, who are they playing? Wolves, I think it is. Sorry, I just checked that now. Sorry, boys.
Why are they such a big price right out?
Yeah, I think Wolves are home.
They'd be smaller price than that.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Keep an eye on this. And then United versus Watford, -1. You know,
So United
and actually, yeah, well, sure, look at. Are Watford any good? I don't know. I haven't been following.
No, Watford are solid useless as well. To be fair.
So this is the thing, and you'd expect Ronaldo maybe to bag 2. Like, come on, and big slabhead Maguire there at the back. Surely to God could keep out the goals against them lads. Then again, who knows?
And do a grand celebration.
A long-term bet, right? I have a couple of long-term bets down myself. They're all NFL related. But then I was looking there today. Celtic are 6-5 to win the Scottish League.
Oh, you're a big Celtic head, even though they're useless.
Big, sure. It's not about supporting the team, it's good. Sure. Otherwise, everyone would only be supporting the one team.
I give up on Blackburn because they were useless.
It's about whether they line their pockets, isn't that right?
Yeah, Eddie Rockets. So yeah, that was a big time bet. Sorry, I had at the start of the season I had Matt Stafford. Anyone that follows the NFL, I had Matt Stafford at I think I got him at 17 or 18 to 1 for MVP, and I also of course have my Green Bay Packers to win the Super Bowl at 9 to 1.
Hey, here's one more I'll throw at you before we finish up.
Go on.
Liverpool are playing Arsenal of a Sunday. Yeah. Liverpool to win and both teams to score 17-10. Would you have us up for that?
I probably would if I had the money, yeah.
Bit of 3-1 Saint, I reckon, yeah.
Well, there you go. I do think Liverpool will win, but Arsenal are getting that bit better. So maybe they might just get a little goal in there. I think that's decent.
Are you changing your lock?
No, I'm not changing my lock, but I'm just saying, I mean, this is sort of to show the form I'm in now. I think I'm going to be a common force when it comes to picking a lock.
Oh,
and I'm sort of just showing off my wares at this stage.
Do you remember after we talked about it last week, Verney, Shane Duffy, what did he go along and do then? Bag the first goal then.
Yeah.
What about Stephen Gerrard in his first game? Villa are against Brighton, 29-20 to get a win on his opening match.
Yeah, I was having a look at that. Yeah. He could enter some kind of a bit of a buzz. They could get a bit of a pep in their step.
Yeah, are you too windy to go with him?
No, I'm rocking with the Grizzlies, right? I'm rocking with the Grizzlies this week. All you Bobcats, you're going to have to pack a big lunch because it's going to be a long day, boy. You ain't getting out of Washington Grizzly Stadium with a victory. I'm telling you that.
Okay, right. So that's our bets. My lock, Middleton +2. What was yours, Verney?
Yeah, Tullamore 5-6. Offaly Senior B hurling final.
Tullamore, and yours was the Grizzlies.
The Montana Grizzlies to win, just to win.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
so,
great stuff,
sorry,
lads.
Bernie. Yeah, go on. All right.
No. If you've one more thing to say before.
I was just going to say. Do you remember you asked me for a gambling story last week? I wanted to ask you this week. I forgot. What's your best gambling story?
For a story?
Yeah.
Oh, Janie Mac. There was one time where we were backing a good few horses at the time. You used to get word for horses, but I'd be kind of superstitious. So one of the boys backed the horse in Powers, and he watched it in Powers, and I watched it in Hackett's down the end of the street. With a nice few quid on it at 7-1, and it won. And the two of us basically met in the middle of the main street, absolutely shouting and roaring, and the whole place is beeping horns at us and all this kind of crack. That'd probably be it. Another time we ransacked the bookies and we had a big win one time as well. But sure, listen, you do what you do. Remember being in the Ladbrokes tent at the Galway races and we were on a right good run, and just remember doing the old Happy Gilmore around the place for about an hour one night.
Somebody's closer.
Go on.
Go on.
Okay,
I was only thinking of one, a roulette one I had there in Vegas. Roulette is my game. I love playing roulette. And I was in Vegas. I was only thinking of this now when I was driving over to get ready. And I was playing with, one of the boys was with me, but he got scuttered and ended up drifting off. So I was sitting beside this girl from Liverpool, and I just nudged her, and we were absolutely tanked. And I says to her, give me a number there, will you? Go on, pick me a number. And she goes, my dad used to play roulette all the time, and his number was 14. I said, right, well, we'll put 20 quid each at 14. 14 red. Next thing, the thing spins, and I was looking here, there, and everywhere. Next thing, she slaps me. We with it. Landed on 14 red by, free weekend in Vegas. It was class. Absolutely mental.
20 quid. What's that? 700 beans?
It was something, mental. Ended up just paid for the whole weekend. I was like, there you go.
That's the job. Hard bit of luck.
Love roulette.
Right, that's it for the show. Thanks very much for joining us, Naoise. Thanks very much, Michael. We'll be back again on Monday. Chat to you then, lads.
Go Grizz.
Cheers, man.
The Hurling Show, brought to you in association with Torpy. Torpy are leading hurling into a new future with Bamboo, a revolutionary hurley created using their unique engineered hurling performance know-how. Already being used by many inter-county players, Torpy's Bamboo is highly sustainable, offers players greater striking distance and a more consistent balance every time, without compromising on natural feel. Check them out on the Torpy website and in the link below, and enter the promo code OurGame to get yourself 10% off.